Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast, where we believe mental illness can be temporary and transformative. Stay tuned for innovative, effective tools from experts in the field of mental health. Hosted by Timothy J. Hayes, psychologist. This podcast aims to change the narrative around mental illness. Move from a place of fear to a place of hope and solutions. Here on Your Mind.
Joy Dettling grew up as a wellness renegade in a household where healthy eating and alternative modalities were commonplace. However, even after growing up with a healthy lifestyle and a relatively stress-free childhood, she developed chronic health conditions and anxiety that increased into her adulthood. Joy now supports others on their journey, coaching individuals on their path of self-healing. Well, Joy, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm glad that Mitzi made the introductions, and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about what got you started in the work you're doing and what drives your passion for it.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a long story. It's a story that I believe my whole life has brought me to this point, really. So what I do is right now is I have been doing life coaching, helping mostly people with issues that have chronic illness and chronic health issues, but also the issues that surround that. So I do work with a lot of emotional and mental issues tied into that because I feel like that is actually a big part. It's a big part of the roots of the issues, which is what my work very much focuses on, getting to the roots. And what's brought me here is really a lifetime of experience with these kinds of issues, personal experience. And I can go back and observe. I had a few years ago. I had an about where my health got very bad. It's like I hit a brick wall, and really it was a slow progression to that state. I think that it actually had been with me for 15 to 20 years before that, but it was so mild and crept up so slowly that I didn't really notice it. It became a part of me, to the point where I just thought, well, isn't everyone tired and stressed out and, have kind of a laundry list of health issues and things that are wrong with them? These things started to become just normal to me because they progressed at such a slow rate. And it wasn't until years ago that I had a point in my life where I had a lot of stress in just about every category of my life. I had moved to a new city. I was in a relationship that wasn't working. I was in the process of starting my first business. I was so very financially unstable. There was just like every single part of my life was not working. And on top of that, also, I had a lot of health issues. And when I hit all this stress, it just knocked me down, to the point where all the health issues that I had got much worse. Like I had extreme fatigue, constant body aches, indigestion, trouble tolerating a lot of foods, headaches. The list really just goes on. And
It got to be too much to ignore.
it got to be way too much to ignore. Yeah, because I was getting to a point where I just could not function as in doing just the basic things that I needed to do in my life. And so that is really, was it huge? It was a really kind of a waking up at that point, because before that, I really was asleep to all of my health issues and how I needed to be taking care of myself. And it was a wake up call that now's the time. You got to figure something out. And at that point, I finally decided, okay, I got to start seeing, see some doctors, get some blood tests, see what's going on. And no one could really figure out what was going on with me. And at that point, I really had to take my health into my own hands. I had to take responsibility for myself. And at that point, since, I wasn't really able to work much anyways, I put all of the strength that I did have, I put that towards figuring out how to heal myself. And what I really found was that, and this is what has really driven a lot of my current philosophy and the way that I work with people, is that it's really, in order to get to the roots to heal, we have to look below the physical symptoms. And that those physical symptoms are an indicator of other deeper issues, beneath that, which are going to be more in the mental aspect or the emotional aspect or maybe the spiritual realm. That these physical symptoms that I was having were really a way of my body to communicate to me that
Yeah.
there were all these deeper issues that I was ignoring and not addressing. And, I went through my own process and my own detective work and exploration, and that's really has driven and highly influenced the way that I work with people now. So that's really, my
So,
story is really what's gotten me here.
so what's the core of the tools that you found work for you that you now offer to others?
So the core of the tools, so it's very different. Every person is very different. And so I think a lot of what I do in my coaching is giving people the ability to see what's going on with them. Is that a lot of, I think that where a lot of people get stuck is they do get stuck on this physical level. And, they see that, okay, there's some physical issues, and they don't really see that connection to the deeper issues, the mental and the emotional. And what I do is I really help them build a lot of awareness that their body is a communication system, and that a lot of the time that it's trying to communicate all these issues that are deeper beneath. And I do a lot of work with mindset, in that awareness building, but also a lot of work with emotional exploration and seeing what emotions might be lodged in the body. I do really believe that when we suppress emotion, that it tends to just find ways into our body, and it might express as a stomach ache, it might express as tender knees, it might express as a stiff neck. And that what we really need to do is to find these emotions, address them, and also find healthy ways to express them. That if we're not healthily expressing our emotions, there's going to be a lot of imbalance in the body. And so I really help people to build awareness around these issues and to start to get this locked energy that might be in the body, finding ways to let it express and come out.
Well, it's, the old adage that pain and discomfort is a way to try and make our ears grow. So we'll actually listen at deeper levels to what's going on.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
as you were referred to me, someone was telling me about work that you do that's um, energy work and yoga. And so um, I'm curious, how do you blend those two? What kinds of energy work do you do?
Yeah. So the energy work that I do, I would call it more a frequency healing, but it's all energy. So the work that I do is I've started doing these sessions that very much work on the subconscious level, and this is kind of while there's the conscious work that we do, which is, building awareness and exploring our emotions and our negative thoughts and things like that, that what I've found, and especially with people who have issues that have become chronic, let's say people have been dealing with issues for years, and oftentimes they've tried a lot of things. A lot of times when people come to me, I'm the last person that they've come to. They've been through the mill with doctors. They might have seen other practitioners as well. And a lot of times I end up being, like I've tried everything and nothing works. And when I hear that, that is when I start to think of working on the subconscious level. Because oftentimes, if we do all this conscious work, it helps the conscious aspect of ourselves. However, 90% of our brain activity is subconscious. It's unknown
Or
to
more.
us, or more. 90 to 95.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the person. And just think of all the automatic processes that happen based on our subconscious, which control our body and the function of our body. All of the memories and past stresses and potentially past traumas that all get stored and locked away in our subconscious. And consciously, we don't even know that our body's still reacting to those things. And so it's when I run into people who tell me they've tried everything, they don't know what to do, that I start to think there must be something on the subconscious level that needs to be worked with. And so I've started doing these sessions, which I call perception reframing, and they're using a technology by the Psy.D company called Evox. And what it is it's a type of biofeedback therapy. So it takes the stress patterns of your voice. Your every session, someone chooses a topic that they have stress around, and they speak about that topic, and the technology is just recording the stress patterns in their voice. But based on that, they are then sent healing frequency vibrations through a little technology device. And these healing frequencies allow for the stress patterns that they might be holding subconsciously about that topic. It allows those stress patterns to clear. It's almost like hitting a reset button. So it's a biofeedback in that we measure stress patterns on the voice, and then based on that, you receive your frequencies, and then you speak again and it measures the stress patterns. And then again, it sends you these frequencies, and it goes back and forth like that until all the stress patterns have cleared in your voice. And what I've found this to be a really amazing modality, and how effortless it is. That a lot of times, and when we work consciously, if you think of an example of something like saying affirmations, I believe that saying affirmations is very powerful, and that I myself have experienced working with affirmations to work. But again, there's a lot of effort that often has to go into saying them, because you're consciously saying them again and again, and you repeat them again and again and again for days and days. Whereas this subconscious healing, it's within a session that's usually about 20 minutes. It's like you're taking one topic and you're clearing all the stress patterns around it, and not just what you think is stressing you out about this issue, but all the things that subconsciously might be stressing you out that you are not even aware of. So it's like just being able to go in and kind of clean out all the gunk around an issue, whether you're aware that it's there or not. So I've found, and what I have found is that, for those who have had really long-standing issues where they've done a lot of conscious work, that these subconscious
Patterns.
clearings,
Yeah.
really patterns, that being able to clear that out has had a tremendous effect on people. And all of a sudden they start to see these things that were blocks for years. Like all of a sudden there's energy moving there. There's something changing. There's something happening there.
So in that, like you and I were talking a little bit about how almost all of your work is the virtual or the telehealth. Are you
Yeah.
able to do this through the telehealth system?
I do, yeah, yeah. So it's all I do is I send out the technology that someone needs. It's there's a hand device that you use for the frequencies, and then I just send that to people that I'm working with, and then it's all done over the phone. So that is one of the beauties of technology. As much as I'd love to see people and work with them in person, and exchange energy in that manner, it's also, technology has just made these things so simple and easy to be able to just spread this kind of healing modality to anyone.
So when you're doing that and you send the device to somebody and then you're having a session, are you using a structured interview? Are you just having them talk about what's bothering them? How does that work?
They're really talking about whatever comes to mind on the given topic. So let's say, a common topic might be anxiety or something, like a general kind of topic. And I would just guide that person to just keep anxiety in their awareness and to just speak on whatever comes to mind about anxiety, and to not withhold or hold back, that they can trust me and that I'm here to support them and not to judge them, but just inviting them to be completely open and just say whatever comes to mind. And uh, and also what's amazing about this subconscious work is that um, the healing isn't really coming from what's being said, but it's more coming from the energetic level. So it's coming from the stress patterns, the stress frequencies that are coming through the voice. So someone could even technically be saying blah, 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 as long as they're thinking about their anxiety and keeping that in their consciousness, they're still going to receive the healing. So as a coach and their guide, I will guide them if they seem to be getting stuck, if there's something that's not flowing, they don't know what to say, they don't know where to go next. Also, I have a reading on my end of that is measuring different types of stress patterns, so I'm able to see kind of what aspects of stress are coming up for them the most as they speak. So if someone's getting really stuck, I might be able to say, I'm observing here on my end that the stress pattern related to sadness is coming up really high right now, and I haven't heard you speak about that. How does sadness play into this? And I might say that, and all of a sudden it's like it just clicks. And all of a sudden, like, things come together, and then the stress pattern, you know
It's
often
resolved.
will
Yeah.
clear, yeah, because they're able to get that little last piece that comes into their consciousness. Maybe that sadness was something that they were avoiding, or that they were um, just simply not aware of.
It sounds really interesting and very similar to work I do with the neuroemotional technique, but that needs the person in the room and the therapist or coach
Hmm.
to be testing the energy system and the cycling back and forth. And it requires this level of willingness in the person to face things that they don't really want to face. And it sounds like this technology that you've got access to helps bypass some of that.
It does in a way. And it's a little bit of both, because again, like, I think it does help you bypass a lot of the things that it's like you don't necessarily have to relive a traumatic experience in order to get through that trauma or to release it in this method. However, at the same time, I'll observe, that there's someone who might be withholding, either maybe there's something that they feel really embarrassed about and they don't want to share with me, or there's something they feel really ashamed about and they don't want to say, or things that they simply don't want to acknowledge themselves even. And well, I'll say, as far as working through, stress and trauma, that this method still, you might go through some of that. There might be an emotional release during this process. I often will have clients cry during the session. I'll often have them. I can say for myself, my own experience, I've like just gone into full body sweats. I've had like what I would call emotional and also like healing clearings through the body, like a detoxification. And so like those things, they might happen if they're a part of the process. But again, it's like I consider it to be fairly gentle and painless for doing that kind of work and working with things that are more deep seated. Um, yeah.
So what's the pattern of sessions like, and what's the cost for somebody who might want to work with you?
So the pattern of sessions that is an interesting question. So this being a biofeedback technology, it actually the hand device that I send out, it actually reads for the strongest resonance in the person for many different aspects. So it actually, after we're done with a session, you have your hand on this device and it sends a frequency into your hand to see how many days to integrate. So it'll test for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, all the way up to 10 days. So it sees what integration period resonates most strongly with your body. And so the schedule is not necessarily regular. We schedule the sessions based on whatever integration period has the highest resonance. That could be anywhere from 2 to 10 days. Generally because the sessions are irregular. And I also really believe that to get deep impact and benefit from these sessions, that it really should be worked with for a month or a couple months at least. And it's really in order to get through what I would consider top level issues for most people. There's also a series that comes up that has to do with working with transgenerational stresses as well. And I think that it's very important for people to get through that series in their time working with me, because it's a very powerful series and it takes a couple weeks usually to get through that. So because of that, I do think that the people who want to work with this should consider doing it for a couple months. And so my monthly rate is $450 for a month, and that's just for unlimited sessions as they come up, based on what the integration rhythm is for that person.
Okay.
And yeah.
And I'm going to have to assume, based on the novelty of the technology, that it's not something insurance companies recognize or reimburse for. So this is
No.
okay.
Yeah.
Like a lot of coaches, we're when we hire a coach, we're paying without insurance intervention, and we have to get convinced of the value to be able to spend that
Yes.
money. And one of the things that is so difficult for me is to encourage people to say, look, you could get your insurance company to pay for you to have sessions and a whole bunch of medications, probably for the rest of your life. And then you'd still want to go see a therapist because you don't feel so good. Or you could, get a lump sum of money together and do some serious work and clear these issues and not have to take the medications and or see the therapist on a regular basis. And that's the
Yeah.
education part that we have to face when we want people to go see a coach or do deep work like this.
Yes, yes. That this is, I think any kind of deep work, a lot of it which is found more in alternative modalities or therapies, that this stuff, it's really, I tend to look at these things as priceless. And I know for me, like I have spent so much money on myself as far as health goes, as far as mental health goes. And much of that has been in the alternative realm, or I would say in ways that my insurance is not going to pay for me. And however, at the same time, like, I can look at that period of time when my health was really challenged. And I did go through the system where insurance would have covered what my treatment. However, there were no good treatment options for me then,
Yeah,
other
no
than,
answers.
yeah, there were no answers for me. And anything that there would have been, would have been medications that might have, given me side effects and not really given me solutions that I was looking for. And that's the thing, this is a conversation that I do often have with people. And I truly believe that money has a very energetic quality to it. And I've really started to see money as energy, and that when we can see what we're putting our energy towards based on what we spend it on. And if there's an area of our life that's really lacking, that's really depleted, whether that's health, our mental well-being, that often if that area is depleted, we can look and see that we're not spending money on it. And that if we're spending our own money on these things, as opposed to depending on someone else to give us money to spend on these things, it's a powerful step energetically, because it is a step in us taking responsibility for our health, which I think is the first step in healing, is claiming back responsibility. And for me, I really find that doing that through our energetic use of money is actually a powerful way to do that.
Yeah, I have to agree. And of course, it
Yeah.
it, it taps into that other piece, which is willingness.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have come up with the energy in the form of money to devote to correcting an imbalance in me, it helps me have the willingness to go through the uncomfortable parts or facing the uncomfortable parts. Um, there's a little extra
Absolutely. Yeah.
investment and motivation there.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah. I like to think of it as, for me, I'm the type of person where, like, a gym membership is very much worth the money, because if I'm paying for something, it motivates me to do something. So if I'm paying for a gym membership or fitness classes, like, I am going to go and I'm going to use it. Whereas if I didn't, I might not be motivated to do those things, at home or something. And yeah, and I think for a lot of people that is the case too.
Well, so let me ask you, how long have you been using the Zyto Evox, and how much, you know, I suppose the best way to ask it is, how many people do you know? What kind of a network of people are actually using this work, or that you might be able to tap into for training, or colleagues
Yeah,
that you can run things by?
you know, I don't know a ton of people that are doing this technology. I have been using it as a patient for over 2 years now. I started using it with a naturopath who I've worked with as their patient for years, and then I've been using it with my own clients for about 6 months now. And with people, I first started just using it with the people I was already doing coaching with, that I was like, this would be a great addition to the coaching that I do. And now I'm even just taking people and just doing this subconscious healing work just as its own thing. But I can say that I know 3 other practitioners probably that I personally know that use this. And that's, me being someone knows a lot of people in the wellness world. And I have to say also, I've been doing work to update my website recently. And in that process, I have been like doing research on what other people are saying about this process, other people who offer it. And there's really not a very strong presence for it. And I'm not sure why that is, other than I just see it as something that's very difficult to market. And maybe that's why a lot of people have not, a lot of practitioners maybe are not bringing it in. And that it's, I think we come from a culture where people are looking for quick fixes, they're looking for the magic bullet. But again, as far as health goes, our culture has become very focused on the physical level of health. And so I think that might be why this modality is a little bit of an oddball when it comes to marketing and things ways to attract people. Because it's, yes, a lot of my clients with physical and on the physical level of their health. But it's also in that whole process, they've really had to dig deeper, and they've had to go to the mental level, emotional level, energetic level, spiritual level, and that really it's also affected all those levels just as much as it has the physical. So it really it has such a different effect on our being than most of the solutions that people are looking for a quick fix. They're looking like, oh, my low back is sore, like what's an exercise I can do to help with my low back. This we've kind of lost the holistic view of our health, which in my mind, the holistic view isn't just looking at the whole body physically. It's about looking at the whole body along with the whole
The energy
emotional
system, right?
network, the energy system, our spiritual connection, our community connection, um, our thoughts, our feelings, all those things, they all tie into our holistic view of health.
Well, and as you're talking about all this and presenting, the Zyto Evox, and I'm thinking about how it's in a way, for my mind, it's coming full circle, because when Freud and Jung and people like that were working, they were working at the deep level. They were working at this cause level of these emotions and these unconscious and these cross-generational patterns. And they had very rudimentary, primitive tools for that. And it took years and years. And now, we've been through all kinds of things that happened with the HMOs and PPOs and people saying we need short therapy and I can fix that patient in 3 sessions, and no, I can fix them in 2 sessions. And so they're working in this very shallow, let's relieve the symptom in just as few sessions as possible. And then we had people come out and say, wait a minute, how can we work deep but be brief? And there were all these techniques that happened with experiential work. And so now I see this is coming in, and there are several different levels of the technology that are coming in to help us get access to that deeper work. And so I think it's a really hopeful thing for people who, like you, who had serious problems, and you went to the traditional medical model. The allopathic medical model is not the traditional medical model. It's the current medical model.
Yeah.
I got corrected by that. Somebody, when I said traditional medicine, that's like Native American or indigenous medicine, and it's that holistic approach. Our allopathic tradition is just go after the symptoms. And when you expand out from that and you look at something to help with cause level shifting of these energies and looking at the person as a whole person, the functional medicine movement, the integrative medicine movement, holistic medicine, um, this is exciting. I'm grateful that you were sharing that with us. And I realize we're getting close to having to wrap this up. So I wanted to just give you a chance to take a breath and settle into the question, what is there about what you do or what you offer people that we haven't even touched on yet? You want to make sure we get in.
That is a good question. We've really touched on a lot. Well, we haven't touched on, my coaching really as much as we did the subconscious healing, the perception reframing. Um, and my coaching though is very it's it's like there's this subconscious aspect, right, which we've talked about and dove into a lot as well. And then it's like what I kind of realized is, so I have this tool now for the subconscious, which was the perfect complement for my coaching, which was working very holistically on the conscious level, on the conscious level of things. Um, and really though, it just continues this idea of just really what is holistic care for ourselves, and that it's not, because most of the people that come to me, they have a lot of physical issues, and when we first have our conversation, I tell them, yes, like I believe that I can help you get over these physical issues, but it's usually not in any way they've experienced before, any way they've ever expected, because we end up looking at all of these other things. So it's like we look at um the things that we talked about, the way that you can affect the subconscious level, but doing those in a more conscious way and looking at, well, what is it about your lifestyle maybe that might be, there might be so much added stress going on that you're not even aware of how much it's stressing you out. A lot of the work I do is to find, okay, you have these physical issues, but do you struggle with anxiety ever? These issues, they started happening 3 years. Tell me what happened 3 years ago. And almost always there is an answer like, yeah, like I was in this terrible car accident 3 years ago. And, and it's kind of about bringing together just this awareness. And I really believe that health is about taking responsibility, like I've said before. And a part of that is doing your own detective work. And I really, me having so much experience and tools myself, having done so much detective work, but my hope really is to instill empowerment with everyone that I work with, that they have the power to go in and heal themselves. In a system where I think much of our society has taught us that we don't really have the tools or the power to heal ourselves. A huge part of the work that I do is to really help people to reclaim their responsibility for their health and to reclaim that power, because I believe each and every individual does have that power to heal themselves.
Excellent. I would have to agree. And I look forward to hearing about it. You said maybe about 6 months you've been working with the Psy.D Evox. Is that right? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing about how your continued use of it goes and ways to market it. I appreciate you're willing to share this with our audience. And if people want to reach out to you, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way?
The best way is, if through social media, is probably my Facebook page. So the name of my business is Upswing Wellness. So you can find my Facebook page for Upswing Wellness, or my website, which is upswingwellness.com. And otherwise, if you want to get in touch directly, you can also email me, which is joy, Joy, at upswingwellness.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I thank you. It's been a delight learning, and I'll look forward to following your work and seeing what's happening with Upswing Wellness.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great.
Joy Dettling grew up a wellness renegade in a household where healthy eating and alternative modalities were commonplace. However, even after growing up with a healthy lifestyle and a relatively stress-free childhood, she developed chronic health conditions and anxiety that increased into adulthood. What Joy did not understand until later years was that all her struggles with her physical and mental health were leading her on a path to realize her life's purpose. With years of research, trial and error, self-exploration, and a healthy dose of faith in the universe, she was able to heal herself. Her discovery was that all physical issues are simply communication from the higher being seeking deeper healing. She found that true healing happens when we bring support to all layers of the being: physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. Joy now supports others on their journey as she does coaching for individuals on their path of self-healing.
You've been listening to the On Your Mind podcast, offered by Journey's Dream, where we support people through mental health challenges to a place of true and lasting well-being. If you love our show, we invite you to visit onyourmindpodcast.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our helpful resources. Thank you for listening.